Hey folks, welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. Today we have the story of a man who finds out his fiancée has a husband, and she wants to open up her marriage to be with him. Let's see how it goes. Story 1. Always learn about your SO or it might come back to bite you. I used to be in a long-term relationship with this girl named Amy I met at work. She was really sweet and I liked her a lot. She met my fam, came to Thanksgiving and Christmas with us, and was generally nice to be around. Thing is though, Amy was really private about stuff. She always used to tell me that she had problems with her family, so she didn't want to be around them at all. I never really questioned her about it because she made it sound like physical abuse or worse, and I just accepted that whatever was in her past didn't matter anymore. It took her a long time to introduce her friends to me too. I was nervous about that at first because I thought she might have an ex or something that was still around, especially since we took it slow on our relationship and every so often she would become really distant. Her friends assured me that wasn't the case, and I figured that was that, but it still made me uneasy. Eventually I stopped caring because we were about to hit our 2-year anniversary. By this point we had moved in together and I had gotten an engagement ring. On our anniversary, I was going to get down on one knee. A week later, we were on the way to her favorite restaurant. On the way, she told me she had a surprise for me. We ordered drinks and talk for a minute. She gets a text and tells me that she has a surprise. She steps out and walks back in, this time followed by a guy she's leading by the arm who's dressed in full army fatigues. This man was her husband. It turns out that she was in fact married to a US Marine named Tyler who had been on deployment in Germany for the past 3 years. He also did not know about me. She did not actually have real problems with her parents. It's just that they would have told me and Tyler that she was two-timing us if we met. Her friends are just as crazy because they kept up with the lie for some reason too. I guess you could say that they were right she didn't have an ex, but I feel like a husband might be in the realm of things I should know. Amy begins an actual written down on a piece of paper speech about her plan for Tyler and her to open up their relationship with me. She wanted me to move in with them in the house that Tyler planned to buy with the money that he earned in Germany. Gave us some pros that would be totally stellar from having an open relationship, and even showed us a schedule of time in which we could swap shifts. I have absolutely no idea what was going on in her head. Tyler just got up and walked away. Meanwhile, I'm losing it. I'm shouting so much that the restaurant staff asked me to leave. I drive home without Amy and tell her to figure out her home situation because I'm taking the apartment. Later that night, I hear a knock on my door and get a bunch of calls, but I just ignore them. I found out that Tyler is friends with my sister's husband. From what I hear, Tyler went for the most cutthroat divorce attorney he could find. He's looking for everything in the divorce. For my part, I kicked her out of my place, got rid of her on everything, and ignored all of her attempts to talk it out. Complete psycho isn't getting anything from me anymore. I can't start to imagine what was going through your fiancé's head, OP. Not only did she cheat on you, but she also cheated on her husband with you. And now she wants to open up her marriage so she can be with the both of you. That's crazy. Her husband walking out means he had no idea all of this was happening. I'm super glad he decided to divorce her. I'm glad you've decided to cut her out of your life too. You both deserve better. Story 2. My wife, 32, and I, 31, have been married for 4 years and together for 7. We have a really great relationship together, joke around together, make each other feel important, etc. The only area where we have an issue is connecting sexually. We average about once a week, and she's told me in the past that part of her is relieved after sex that the clock can kind of reset, and she doesn't have to worry about it for another week. I know I have trouble pleasing her and offering myself up for anything. She doesn't really like receiving, or giving for that matter, oral, and she doesn't really have a lot of ideas for things that will help her enjoy it more. This obviously puts a pretty big damper on an otherwise great relationship. But I'm madly in love with her and our life together. I'm working hard to improve it though, and it has shown signs of getting a bit better recently. This brings me to what happened recently between her and a mutual friend of ours, 35 male. She's very involved in local politics and so is he. So that is how we all know each other. I get along with him very well and we hang out on our own sometimes, and vice versa with him and my wife. But 2 recent events have made me suspicious of the extent of their relationship. They are as follows. Me and my wife and him and his wife were having a dinner party at our house, just the 4 of us. He got very drunk, and so did my wife. At one point during the dinner, I looked down under the table and saw that their feet, they were sitting across from each other, were touching a lot. I wouldn't say actively playing footsies, but they were definitely aware of how much contact and for a long duration. I asked her about this later that night after they left, and she said sorry. Also that she didn't notice. I figured it was not a big deal. Either she was too drunk to notice or just being slightly playful while drunk. This brings me to last weekend. While she was away for the weekend, definitely nothing going on, a planned volunteer trip, I was on our iPad and something got the better of me to look through some of her iMessages. A dick move, I know. I went through a correspondence with her best friend and saw an iMessage a month old that said, "Did you get rid of the ticket? I'm feeling bad. Maybe I should invite her high school friend. I also just worry because she's so militant about our mutual friend and that we can't even speak to each other. She's just being protective, but still. He'll be there and I'm not going to ignore him." This text is regarding my wife not wanting to invite her friend from high school to a fundraiser that her best friend had an extra ticket for, because for some reason she did not want my wife to speak with our mutual friend. This high school friend was at a barbecue we threw for all of our friends, including our mutual friend and his wife. My wife got very drunk at this party to the point where she said she didn't remember anything that happened after 7 p.m. She didn't have the ability, as far as I know, to spend alone time with our mutual friend because of how many people were at the party. I would have loved to check and see what communication she had with our mutual friend, but he doesn't have an Apple device, so none of their communications were on iMessage. After I saw this text, I texted her a snapshot of it and asked her to explain it, and that I must be misunderstanding because it looks bad. She called 1 hour later and said she had never gotten the text, even though no other texts went through between us that weekend. So I explained what I read. She responded that her high school friend was worried about the amount my wife and mutual friend and myself and his wife were flirting at the barbecue, and said that she wouldn't have been surprised if a wife swap happened that night. I did not flirt with a mutual friend's wife at all. She was very drunk, and we went outside for a few cigs occasionally throughout the night, but that's it. My wife said that high school friend was just overreacting, and I tend to believe that version of events. But I've been thinking this past week about how blatant my wife and mutual friend's flirting must have been that would have caused her friend to be so strongly opposed to them even talking in her presence. She also wasn't even mad at all that I had snooped on her iMessages. She did, however, immediately change her Apple password so that it wouldn't pop up on the iPad anymore. She has to be out in the evening quite often for her career, at least 3 relatively late nights per week, around 9 p.m. arrival home. And at these events, she often sees him. I go every once in a while, but more often than not, I choose to stay home. Trust is very important, and I'm feeling a bit shaky in the department this past week and a half or so. I have no proof that anything's going on, and 90% of me doubts that anything is happening. I just want to know how Reddit might think in my situation. It will hopefully help me give some perspective. Thanks all for making it this far in the post. First update. I cannot believe I'm typing this right now. I was updating a spreadsheet on my wife's laptop about 1 hour ago and was looking for a file. In the Users App Data Local Temp folder, I found dozens of nudes of our mutual friend and 6 scantily clad or nude selfies of my wife. These must have been dropped in the temp folder when she synced her iPhone. Tip for all those worried about their spouse, check this folder. I'm stunned right now. I have to pick her up from the train station in roughly 30 minutes. I'm going to play it cool. I will not confront her immediately. I'll get my affairs in order. I would love tips from any of you guys or gals as to what you did or wish you did in a similar situation. Everything had been going well for the last 26 days too. We started going to the gym together. There was some spark to our relationship again. I feel absolutely crushed. We have a 2-week-long vacation booked in December. I have no idea what to do about that. We own 2 properties. One is a condo we rent. She makes more than me, so if divorce, I would love to get that condo back and live there. It makes sense financially for me. I have screenshotted and saved all the photos. Her selfies were from August. I'll check the existing data on this in a bit. Where do I go from here? Last update. She had gone out for drinks with the committee she's on. Mutual friend is not on it. I must have been acting weird. I'm normally goofy and jovial with her, but I was pretty stoic, I guess. So she started giving me a hard time about my jealousy when we got to the restaurant. I can show you the agenda for the meeting if you don't believe me, etc. I had asked her about MF, mutual friend, fitting initials, 3 times in the previous 6 days. So I broke down and told her what I knew in the restaurant. I kept my cool as best as possible, and I ate and had margaritas. She didn't eat at all. I got home, asked for an entire recounting of what had happened. Long story short, started with Footsie in March. She texted to say it was inappropriate and apologized. He doubled down and escalated the flirtation. She responded. In July-August, pictures began to be exchanged. Only 6 or so inappropriate ones from her dozens with him. During this time, they met often for coffee during the workday and would text each other every day. They kissed during her unremembered blackout at the barbecue. She asked him if they did because she felt like something happened and he confirmed. No excuse, just whatever. Sounds BS. 3 weeks later, she goes out for drinks with him and they kiss after she drops him off to go home to his damn wife. Roughly 2 weeks later is when I find the text. She tells him I found it and they can't be friends. 1 week later, back to texting daily. Last week she's in DC for the night and got the last nude pic from him. She was texting him on her way to committee meeting tonight. This whole time she's telling him how sexy he looks and how if things are different they could be together. It took a trickle truth to find out about the second kiss, and that was after I told her if any tiny piece of this story doesn't add up, or I find out is untrue later, we're through. Her initial reaction to me telling his wife was that it isn't our business. I told her I will most likely tell her anyway, and that she better not warn MF that I know beforehand. Another huge point is that she deleted her iCloud backups the week after I initially confronted her at the urging of Apple support. To be fair, her phone was really having issues and deleting the backup fixed those, but still super convenient. There have been new backups since the deletion, and I want her phone backed up so that I can see them. She's currently saying no, but this is a sticking point for me if there's to be any reconciliation. I told her I'm going crazy in my mind over what was, and this will at least cement the knowledge of what was going on last month. The last month that I was working hard at becoming an even better husband and partner for her, and she was still sexting MF, and the pace of his nude selfies was even starting to ramp up at the end. This is where we stand now. I'll work on figuring out my path from here. I hope to update you guys if anything else comes to light or any progress is made. I swear I was a good husband. I'm crushed. OP, the fact that she continued even after you confronted her the first time tells all really. You know for a fact that even getting caught only slowed her down for a bit. I wouldn't hold out much hope that they haven't slept together. I think you should just leave regardless. I mean, she was berating you for being a paranoid, jealous husband literally right up until the minute you confronted her with proof. She played footsie with a guy under a table you were sitting at. Then she told you it was nothing, that you were imagining things. If you hadn't caught her outright, they would have continued to mess around with each other behind your back. Divorce and find someone who respects you. Now for some comments. Make her tell the guy's wife herself. Seriously. Stipulate that she must own up to her transgressions or you're immediately out the door. Even if you have already decided to divorce, try your best to get her to do this. People like her should have to deal the soul-crushing blow to the others' lives that they've caused. If possible, make her do it in person with the guy's wife. Man, some people just don't have moral centers. This isn't on you at all, it's all her. She may think that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, but once she goes completely over, she'll feel the exact same way as she did before. A woman like that is too much trouble. Just think about this, what if you found out later? What would it have escalated to then? You only have one life to worry about, i.e. no kids in the picture. Dude, that effing sucks, but it's done. Listen to the lawyers here, get her out of your life. You do not need or deserve constant worrying. Tell his wife, and do not settle out of court unless you're going to be set for life on the amount. They're in local politics. They don't want a scandal. Too bad, you trusted them. They broke that trust, now they reap what they sow. I wouldn't settle out of court for anything less than what Bill Gates makes in 5 years, but I'm a vindictive asshole. There's nothing more sacred than complete trust. Anyone who violates that deserves to have their life sent to shambles.